further ado, why make music? Welcome to Why Make Music episode 27. It feels like heaven. If you watch Stranger Things, do you have powers like 11? How is your mental capabilities? Do you live outside your mind? Or do you live deep inside your mind where your dreams come true and you run wild? I am your host, ThinkTimm. That's ThinkTimm, and I am the creator and curator of this podcast. Why make music? ... On today's podcast, we will be diving into the research that I looked up and referenced to the mental state of composers and producers, those who are more than listeners of music, the professional musicians, the players, the creators, the ones who tickle the ivory, pluck the strings, pound the drums, write the lyrics. Yeah, but before I get into it, I must ask of all, if this is your first time or your 27th time, please make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast on all of your podcast platforms, on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, etc., because my analytics are showing that we are growing as an audience, but no one is liking. In order for me to share and be suggested to others, you must like, follow, share, and even comment on the podcast. My history, for those who are tuning in, I am a hobbyist musician, born and raised to make music, but did not do that as a career. But now that I have nothing but time on my hands, I am digging into my bag of tricks and putting out music and incorporating artwork and writing a blog on www.ThinkTimm.com. That's ThinkTimm. You can even download, stream, or purchase all of my music. I am new at this. I currently have 6 projects that are available for streaming on all major streaming platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube Music, Tidal, if it still exists, I am uncertain, but on all major platforms you can type in ThinkTimm and you can listen to my tracks. I say tracks because currently I was producing instrumentals, and there is a total of 6 projects. Each project contains 26 tracks for a grand total of 156 individually unique songs that are all written, composed, produced, and played by me. No samples, no interpolation of other material, just original. My goals as a independent producer and artist is to attempt to get my music played in commercials or on television or any type of media such as movies, anything that is called sync licensing. So I am diligently in the background trying to make that occur. Segue to the background, all the music that you hear during the podcast in the background are tracks produced by me, played by me for your enjoyment. If you need some sounds to work out to study to, I'm not sure if this stuff qualifies as lo-fi, but I know it's good because I'm not just the maker. I listen to my own music also. So I want to implore that you, the listening audience, try something new. Try ThinkTimm, ThinkTimm, and make sure you tune in every week for a new episode of Why Make Music ... and listen to the cool new topic that we are discussing, and that leads me to episode 27. Once again, please like, subscribe, follow, share with a friend. Tell someone that, yo, there's this cool, mellow, kind of funky podcast that you can listen to, you can shop to, you can clean the house to, you can dance to. Has anyone ever said, I'm dancing to a podcast? I don't know, but you can. But anyway, episode 27, what we are getting into, we are going to discuss a topic that I personally wanted to look up and get into. Recently, I too listen to podcasts, and I too watch YouTube videos. But I came across something that I thought was rather fascinating, and I wanted to share. Long time ago, in a world when I was a youngin', I used to buy physical records before it became a niche thing that people are doing now. In the 80s, we bought records because that's how we listen to music. Inside these records were liner notes. I used to, as I'm sure most people who are collectors interested in music or literate, just read what was inside the albums. Being a fan of Prince, I read all of the names in the albums, and at the time, this was 84, around Purple Rain, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the first album that I saw the name Susan Rogers. And I thought that was cool only because she was listed as the sound engineer. Being though it was the 80s and I was young, I wasn't a novice as far as terminology of what music production was, even though at that time it was way above my pay grade, because I was just plucking the bass and making songs on a cassette player, bouncing tracks back and forth. I was nowhere near trying to go to a studio, but I knew what the folks did, so I gave props to Miss Susan Rogers for working with one of the best. Fast forward to the 2020. Susan Rogers is now a PhD doctor at a university where she teaches neuroscience in relation to music and auditory understanding. Why do I find that interesting? Because it is scientific research excuse me, on how we listen and hear music and how that is processed in our heads. I don't know if the average person is aware. Music is a therapeutic device. Music is something we as the world, we as humans take for granted. From the time that we are born until the time that we perish and die, music is consistently a part of our lives. I say that because my question was that I had to do a little bit of research on was, how does the brain structure of one who writes, compose, make, create music operate? Does it operate differently than those who do not? And I didn't ask the question or look up the information just based upon my own need to understand myself, but more so for the need to understand how we create music, because music is basically sound waves put together to create a understandable language that is rarely not understood, rarely not holding a place where a person would have a opinion about music. It's something that is constantly there and is very, very noticeable when it is absent from one's life. So, when I was looking up and reading about this, it actually said that there are different attributes that affect the mind, the brain itself, the actual brain structure for composers and producers, and for those who do not. And they say that these attributes are due to the extensive mental and physical training and practice that takes place in the creation of music. It actually leads to neuroplastic changes in the brain. When I say neuroplastic changes in the brain, I'm actually talking structural differences, such as gray matter volume. You know, they say that a professional musician exhibits an increase of gray matter volume in regions associated with motor control, meaning playing, your digits, your fingers, your auditory process, hearing, how you take in, and your spatial coordination. These are things that, as a person who creates music, we perhaps take for granted, and for those who consume and watch and listen, probably never ever questioned, was there something that's different about the brain structure of a person, comparable to an athlete who practices and wakes up and works hard and plays hard in their competition, their sport. A musician, it turns out, they say that it is funny because there are parts and area of the brain that undergo changes to what they learn, and due to their adapting to their special music training, it's almost like muscle memory. You understand? It's like basically one thing I, as a creator of music, novice level, something I have a hard time doing is singing and playing at the same time. To me, that's almost like two trains running on one track, and the conductor I am not. So, in time, it's funny that I realize when I switch off the thought process and do it, it works better. It's like questions, you sit back and say, like, how could you pull this off when I was trying to, it seemed like it was rather hard and difficult. So there is a thing that I read about, and it's about corporeal, I think I'm saying that right, activation processes. They said that they used a MRI study to study the brain, and that professional pianists seems as though they use lower levels of cortical activation to stimulate, to activate their digits, their fingers, their phalanges when playing. So I guess that's like technically being on autopilot, and your brain is literally affected. I say that because a few years ago, I had the opportunity to do a little digging because of my own curiosity about culture. And it turns out that I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I'm speaking on a culture's education. And from my understanding, a lot of the Asian culture, they spend a lot of time teaching their children how to play instruments. And I'm not talking recreationally playing. I'm talking full music theory, full training, full regimented instruction. Now, does that necessarily make them better when it comes to being a musician? Because I'm not going to lie to you, I've always lived by the statement that I don't know who said it. Maybe I made it up, but just because you can read a book doesn't mean you can write a book. So to me, just because you can read and write music doesn't mean that you can necessarily create something that will be standoutish, somehow different in the grand architect of sound. That leads me to something that I touched on early in another podcast. The therapeutic value of music. Now, if that statement that music is therapeutic or music does not have an effect, I know for a fact that several times we have all heard when something goes wrong, if someone does something negative or something hateful, they always tend to investigate, what was that person doing in their time, their free time? What type of shows were they watching? What type of literature were they reading? What type of video games were they playing? And what type of music were they listening to? So, if you ever wanted to question the influence that music has, we've all been down that road once or twice in our lives, that we've subconsciously gave props or blame to music for something, an aspect of our being, our understanding, our memory. Just a reminder right now, but you are listening to Why Make Music ... hosted by ThinkTimm, ThinkTimm, and I hope you're having a great time. Music therapy. What's the phrase? Music soothes the savage beast. Put some light music on to relax. Put some banging track tracks out to party to. Let the band play and you get down in the pit and you run and you jump and you let your vibe out. When you're working out, you pound some music, you put on something to keep going. When you're driving fast, you put on music, you wanna be cool, you find a nice soothing track. All of these things have affected your mental, your understanding, your growth, your comprehension of life based upon music. Now let me circle all the way back. Now, of course, I can only speak for myself, and I'm not trying to be self-indulgent. But all I think about outside of my family and responsibility is music. I've had the fortune or misfortune to basically have me removed from everyday life. I'm not imprisoned or anything, but I don't necessarily socialize like the average person. So I have a lot of time to formulate my thoughts and formulate my opinions and to fully self-recognize my personality. My understanding and comprehension of music is something that I do not take for granted. It is something that I really want to share, and it's very odd because technically I am a extremely introverted person, but I'm not, by no means. Technology has allowed me the opportunity to share myself and share my ideas, my intellectual property. It allowed me to grow and be fearless when it comes to wanting to leave something in the world. I say that because from a point of view of I don't say the word and use the word lightly, because as the word is a creator, that is a small population, a small segment of the world that we know that people want to create, and people do create with the intention of sharing. The only reason I attempt to put some type of financial gain on it is because I see people with lesser ideas doing so, and as we are humans and on this planet, it tends to allow you to have a better existence with more currency, and I want the better things, not necessarily for me, but more so for my children, my wife. I feel as though I'm intelligent enough to attempt to compete for some of this attention. So, with that said, it's to you I share my ideas, my creation, my music, my sounds. I put these out to you to listen, to critique, to share, to drive, walk, talk, to work out, to live with, to think about, to converse, to judge, to do whatever you want to do with the music, dissect it, ingest it, do what you need to do so you too could perhaps spark a creative seed within yourself to make you unlock your own creativity. We are all influenced by something, by someone, by some sound, by some smell, some word you read somewhere has made you who you are. Your parents, your grandparents, the reputation that you have to live up to, the reputation that you want to create for others to live up to. These are all part of what makes us tick, what makes us alive. I have had the opportunity that I think a lot of people have not. I can live a very peaceful, private existence and live with my thoughts. It is a wonderful feeling to not have to bend or break or change yourself and be appreciated for what you are. How do I encourage everyone to do the same? even as I say this, and then I have the dichotomy within me to say the blessed words of social media: like, follow, share, subscribe. Be you. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. Regardless, I have created humans. I have found love. I have fulfilled my duties as a human. Plus, I found peace within myself, which has allowed me to create intellectual property that I find good enough to want to share, and I'm sure it will live on longer than I. What words of encouragement, what words of meaning can I say to a listener, a friend, a family member, to tell you to exercise your mind, use your power that you have inside of yourself to move yourself forward so you can be the best version of yourself. People, we may possibly live in a world that we are supposed to answer to rules that are established by common sense principles, but as any world or anything has rules, parameters, policies that you must follow and adhere to. If you can be great within the parameters, you are permitted to break through those parameters, and the real world is exposed to you. The parameters that I speak of is the knowledge within your own mind that you do not take the opportunity to surpass the status quo. If you stay where they want you to stay, if you do not try to move above, move beyond the everyday, you will allow them to win. I know this started with the effect that music has on the mind, but this is the effect that music has on the mind. This is why make music. This is ThinkTimm. ThinkTimm. This is why I make music. It frees my mind. It allows me to rise above the everyday. It allows me to love, to share, to teach. It allows me to be me. It gives me the freedom to breathe, the freedom to grow, the freedom to understand and explain. We say all the time that there are so many unknowns in the world. There are so many things that we cannot do. That is all a lie. All of the answers are there. We come pre-programmed with the answers. We have to unlock our minds to feel, to sense, to understand our potential. I'm not saying everyone has to be great. I just need you to understand that everyone is great. What are you going to do with your greatness? What are you going to do with your time while you're here? The choice is up to you. The choice is truly only yours. If you would have told me 6 months ago, 7 months ago, that, you are going to take your idea and you are going to run via technology and put your ideas out for the world to have, to listen, to be a part of someone's listening routine, to have an audience of people listening to you dispense advice that you find useful in living your own life when it comes to creating music, when it comes to thinking your own thoughts. I would have not believed that I would have enough to say. I would not believe that I would want to sit and share. Go back to episode 1. I was very apologetic about the presentation. I was nervous about the offering that I was putting out there. I realized that it's not the personal insecurities. There are no insecurities. Life is what you make it. Make it your own. Make music. Make art. Make love. Do what makes you happy as long as you do not harm another human. You can do it. I am doing this. I am motivated. I am moving forward. I have done some amazing things. I have released 156 individual songs in a 6-month period. No sales next project, my next trip might take me around the world. My next trick might make me the greatest illusionist ever. Don't